He was just expanding as a human being. What that created had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with my level of safety within myself. Because what that really showed me was that I feared my own expansion. We've learned so much about creating so much safety within inside of ourselves so that we don't fear the evolvement of each other. We actually applaud it and want it because his expansion is only going to allow for my own. What every human being desires is to experience wholeness within themselves, to be witnessed by another human being in that wholeness.
Welcome to Safe to Love. We are on a mission to help the world believe in love again and give you the courage to find it. I'm so honored to bring on our next guests, Darci and Brandon Burke, who we have met a few months ago. And we actually, Chad and I both started working with Darci, and she's an amazing somatic therapist, and they do like groups and retreats. And they also just have the most amazing love story. And we would love to have you guys introduce whatever you would want to introduce yourself and start sharing your love story with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us. This is going to be such a fun conversation today. We've been looking forward to it. Brandon and I have had opportunities through our own podcast to like share individually a little bit about our relationship, but never like together in this dynamic. So it's going to be fun to see what comes up. But yeah, I'm Darci, and we've been married for 25 years, and we have 5 beautiful kids that are just the absolute joy of our life. And we live in Southern Utah, and we love it here. And what else do you want to add about you?
Yeah, that's good. My name is Brandon. I am an orthodontist, and so our journey together has included, Darci and I got married right at the beginning of our academic journey, which was a 10-year long journey in and of itself. So we have been through everything together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a beautiful ride.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you guys met very young, right? What was your, I know it's funny to think back at our age, who were we at 19? What was our previous relationship experience like? But I always like to start with kind of who you guys were when you met, and what you guys sort of brought into the relationship at the beginning.
Yeah. So I was 18, just recently graduated from high school when I met Darci. She was 16 at that time, about to turn 17. And so, yeah, we were very young. We grew up relatively near each other, but in just far enough away towns that we didn't go to school together. We didn't grow up together, but our high schools were big rivals. And so there was, I guess because of my participation in athletics and the disdain that her school had for me, Darci was aware of me. She knew of me. And what happened was I showed up at a dance the summer after graduating high school that I was not supposed to be at. It was just so random. And well, now we know that it wasn't random, but and that's where I met Darci. I met Darci at this dance, and she, I guess, had watched me play some sports against her high school, and so she kind of already knew who I was when I approached her to ask her to dance. But I didn't know anything about her. The only thing I knew was I just saw the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And I had to go meet her. So I walked up to her and asked her to dance, and yeah, the rest is history.
That's it. That's a wrap.
Yeah, no. Yeah. So we dated for about 9 months, and then I left on an LDS mission, and we wrote the entire 2 years every week. We wrote each other. And then upon arriving home from my mission, I was very pleased to discover that we still very much loved each other. and we were married 4 months later. So
when you guys dated only 9 months before you left, did you guys agree to wait for each other, or what was that period of time like while he was gone, Darci?
Yeah. I mean, no, he was very much aware that I was still in high school and still needed to have experiences, and I wanted to have experiences and not just like hide myself in a room while he was gone for 2 years. So we deeply loved each other, but also had the understanding and the awareness that we were just going to continue to live our lives and stay connected as best we could while he was on his mission. And then to see what happened when he got home. But I was so Twitter pated. I had dated lots of guys, and he was the only one that I felt as connected to as you can as a teenager, with the knowledge and the awareness and the understanding you have of yourself at that time. But he checked off all the boxes in somebody that I wanted. And later throughout our marriage, we'll get into it later, somebody that I've really needed. And so I was like, I knew when he left on his mission that I was going to marry him. I don't know if I said that out loud to him. Do you remember if I did?
no, you didn't.
But I knew that I was going to. So I just had fun while he was gone. I dated, and I mean, I was open to other relationships, but deep down, I always knew that he is my person. And it was fun. It was so fun writing him on his mission. You get to know somebody really well, actually, through writing letters.
Yeah, I kind of love that. It's so romantic.
Yeah. And we still have all the letters. We need to get those out sometime and reread them. But
they're tucked away in storage somewhere, but we need to break them out.
We would also because we had cassette players, and I would record however the length on the cassette players were, 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I had a little recorder, and I would record me just talking into it for 2 hours straight. And then I would send it to him and for him to listen to. But it was fun.
So
it was a fun way
the
to
original voice notes.
That's right. Yeah. Marco Polo back in the day without the video, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like I got to know him in a way that I might not have without those 2 years of creating space between us, but also staying connected through letters. So
I love that, because back then, at least, there was no email or phone calls or text, right? The only communication you were really allowed back home was letters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like you guys got to have this sort of 1800s courtship.
Yes, me and the mailman became best friends. Because it was every Monday his letters came, and I would literally be looking out the window for when his letter would come, and he would see me, because sometimes I'd be waiting out there by the mailbox, and he would see me and be like, "It's here!" It was a fun time, those early stages of falling in love and just being so Twitter pated. And yeah, I got to experience that for over a span of 3 years from the time that we met. Just that anticipation and that getting to know each other. And we were both so young, and it was a really, really fun time.
I love that.
For me.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, getting Darci's letters while in the middle of the Amazon jungle, that was the highlight of my week for sure. And it was really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. And then you got married 4 months after you got back.
Yeah.
And then as you got married, were you still in that honeymoon phase until you had kids? And then did things change as you had kids, or kind of what was the evolution of the next phase after the Twitter pated phase?
Yeah. What do you think?
Well,
I mean,
before I get there, I'm curious.
Everybody. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chad. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, I'm curious what that experience was like. You guys had really got to know each other on this deep, emotional, intellectual level, and then all of a sudden, you're in what do they call it? holy matrimony, and living together, right? And the physical relationship doesn't begin then. So what was that like to have? What was those early phases like, where this sort of what had become a dream suddenly became a reality?
I'll let you start with that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was adjustment. I think anytime we didn't live together or anything before we got married.
We kissed.
That's about it. So yeah, our intimacy with each other was something we definitely had to um like, discover together. I had never had sexual relations with anybody before I got married, and neither had Brandon.
Yeah.
So we were our first partners in that arena. And that came with some navigation and some exploration. And so it was, I always hear people say, like, the first year of your marriage is the hardest. And I think that's true. Like, I think you're learning about each other's dynamics in a way that you didn't experience when you were dating. You are just getting to, you have to get to know each other on a level that you have never had before, because you've not lived with each other. And back then we were so unaware of patterns and core wounds and inner child work and all the things that we know now. And so I think that's why the first year can be kind of difficult, because you take things personal, and you're used to doing things your way and the way that your family does them. And so it was, we had some obstacles figuring that stuff out, and also having a lot of fun at being newlyweds and being married. And we did college together, and we had a lot of our college classes together. And I felt at the time that because we were married, it was okay to cheat for some reason in college. I'm just kidding.
Well, we were so poor that we strategically aligned our classes together the best we could, even though we were in different departments, different majors, so that we could save money on sharing the same textbooks.
That sounds like a lot more wholesome version of that story.
Yeah.
But it was a really fun time. It's wild to look back now, after 25 years and after several years of being, kind of on a journey of healing and awakening and self-discovery. And to look back at those times and just have it be very clear how much projection was brought into, and I think it's very, very common in a marriage to be a container for a lot of projection.
Mm-hmm.
And projection, really is just the idea that you come into a marriage believing that your partner, your spouse, is the magical carrier of all of your unmet needs. It is going to make you whole, is going to complete you, and is just going to be this saving grace for your soul. And, so going back to your question about, the honeymoon phase, April, we had so much fun. But it starts to become apparent relatively quickly that you're actually, when you haven't lived with someone, when you do the Mormon thing and, you haven't had any kind of physical intimacy other than kissing, and, you're just really, you really don't know yourself. And now here you're making an eternal commitment to someone who you really don't know them either all that well, comparatively.
Yep.
And it's just it's just realizing, wow, marriage is the big thing about marriage is that we bring into it all of these expectations, a lot of unconscious needs that we seek to be met by our partner. And, you know, I guess what I'm saying is, look, at the time, really, really unaware of all of that. But now looking back, being like, oh yeah, those first several years of marriage were just, a lot of projecting.
Yeah. But
Well, I'm
also,
just sitting here imagining like the one letter a week is probably really easy to only put your best side forward, and you go from one letter a week to 24 hours together. All that stuff comes out that was easy that didn't come out right when you guys were just courting.
yeah. We definitely have grown up together. I mean, I was 19, almost 20 when I got married. So I was so young. And, but amongst all of that, trying to figure all that stuff out, those are some of my most fondest memories of our early marriage. I mean, we had no money at all, and had memories of like pawning off our computer so we can pay rent. And we had a little cup in our car, and whenever we had extra change, we would put the change in the cup, and when it got full, we would go get ice cream. And they've just become some of our most cherished memories. And then we graduated college together, and we took so many college classes together, and we had part-time jobs, and we were just making our way through life together. And so I've had people ask me before, like, do you regret getting married so young? And I say, no, I don't. I'm really thankful it's for those early experiences that we've had together, and the way that we've been able to grow up together. And I think it's kind of like built a foundation for when we have experienced rough things later on in our marriage. We have like that foundation of like of where we began and the things that we went through at such a young age with each other. So, it was a fun time. And then, we started having babies, and we took off to the East Coast for Brandon to do dental school. And that was an incredible experience, because it's like in Utah, we got married, we started our family. But I feel like it was like when we moved back east, away from all of our like extended family, our family of origin, is where we became truly a family, because we had nobody else to rely upon but each other. And it was really good for our marriage in that way of just solely depending on each other for everything. And we loved it back there. And I loved being a young mom, and I loved seeing Brandon pursue his career and be so good at it. And we made so many friends out there that we still are best friends to this day. And it was amazing living in a different state, and we just loved it so much.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I love that.
So in 10 years in dental school, even when kind of back to April's question, like sounds like not the honeymoon phase, but it was still beautiful and sweet and fulfilling for a lot of that period of time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, we had a lot of fun. We started having kids relatively soon after getting married too. 2 years after we were married, we had our first baby. So we had kids about every 2 to 3 years, going through all of that. By the time we're done with school, we've got 3 kids and one on the way.
And still broke. Super broke.
Still broke. Still broke. And just living, just loving and living. And it was a great time.
Yeah. Did you guys lean? I know that you have both left Mormonism now, and that your relationships changed a lot, but I'm curious, like what tools did you have when you were younger, and how did those tools evolve? Because, as you were saying, Brandon, you had a lot of projecting happening, but it also sounds like there was a lot of just like really good times. And part of that's just kind of like you're young and don't have the awareness to know any better, right?
Yeah.
Did you lean on that a lot? And then how did that shift?
Yeah.
Like lean on your Mormon faith and...
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question, April. I think that, Mormonism provided this this structure, this path that at the time, you know, worked for us, you could say, I guess, in that it, when there were moments of difficulty or disconnection or, you know, just life happening in a marriage, I think both of us, we were very, very involved in and active in the church. And very believing. And so, yeah, we would definitely fall back on those principles and those teachings of, forever family, eternal marriage, like, eh, falling back on the faith was definitely like, that's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you did when you were faced with hardship or questions or doubting or anything. It was like, just keep believing in this thing and everything will work out. God will take care of you. If you're righteous and you keep the commandments, everything will work out for you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
curious when that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Darcy.
no, I was just gonna say, like in speaking of like actual tools that we utilized when we were experiencing challenges that we lean back on, like due to like our Mormonism upbringing and our faith at that time was like just prayer
Mm-hmm.
and like
That's what I was thinking.
keeping the commandments, paying our tithing, going to the temple, these things that they would tell you to do that was going to bring you peace and happiness.
Don't forget family home evening,
Family home evening.
scripture study.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we did all those things.
Yeah.
And still had struggles.
I'm curious when that stopped working, and and obviously that's not necessarily a fixed point in time, but you speak about like it worked. This framework worked. These tools worked enough to keep you guys having a relatively happy relationship and both being relatively happy. And kind of at what point that started to not work the same way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I know, the objective here is not to talk a lot about Mormonism necessarily, but the fact is when you are raised in that particular religion, perhaps others, I can't say, but that's my experience is in Mormonism. You are taught and conditioned to believe that although right now things may not be how you want them or feel like they should be, just keep trucking along. Just keep your head down and keep putting your shoulder to the wheel and push along and push along. And someday, in some far off, distant future afterlife place, everything's going to be perfect.
Mhm.
So just keep at it. Just keep praying, keep reading your scriptures, keep going to the temple, keep paying your tithing and everything. Yeah, someday it'll be okay.
Until one day it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
Well, I think like along that path, we both were suppressing a lot that we were
Mm-hmm.
not completely fully conscious to, but that it was like building up over time.
Mm.
And it got to a point to where it was like everything kind of like, I don't know if the word is exploded, but like ruptured at one time. And that started with Brandon questioning Mormonism and going through like what they call in the church a faith crisis. And then that brought about at the same time issues in our marriage that we had not fully addressed. And we had other things going on in our lives that just like everything just kind of like boiled to the surface at the same time. And it was a lot. And we had to confront some really difficult things that we had been avoiding and suppressing. And so, yeah, I mean, part of that, you know, like doing those praying and reading our scriptures and going to the temple, like it was not getting to the root of what we really needed to get to the root of. And a lot of that was because we had unaddressed shadows that is hard to integrate in Mormonism, because in Mormonism, the shadow is kind of looked at as sin, and not to kind of be like, it's not helpful integrating your shadow.
It's
And
not even
so,
considered part of you.
yeah. And we had no idea about shadow work. We had no idea about inner child work. We had no idea how trauma affects intimacy and relationships. And so it just all came at the same time, and it was a lot. And so we've had a lot to work through the past 3 to 4 years.
This all came to a head about 4 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, between 3 and 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing the math right, and I love the way that you phrase it, Darci, it's this suppression, and it's almost like putting a Band-Aid over a festering wound. We don't see the wound anymore, but it's still festering. And it sounds like that buildup of that pressure and those unresolved traumas and those unresolved issues went on for almost 2 decades in your marriage before it hit that breaking point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where, again, I think that you just resort to what you know. And as both of us having been born and raised in Mormonism, what we knew was just stay faithful and everything will work out.
And it sounds like, Brandon, your sort of experience was the one that led maybe the initial shift. What was going on for you that led you to that point where you had to start making a change?
Yeah, I realized that I started just, I had been feeling for years these, I'll call them like seismic tremors, just little tremors underneath my feet. I had been experiencing severe depression for years. I had been coming into a phase of pretty significant burnout in my career, in my profession, and physically unhealthy, exhausted, just like not really realizing it, but I had begun to pick up on several different adaptive behaviors and habits that were just keeping me alive, that were just like keeping me going in like as a highly functional professional, but who was also like severely depressed. And yeah, as far as the church goes, it just happened that I decided to do what I had been told to never do as a Mormon, and that was to start investigating some questions that I had, doctrinally, historically, that were perhaps being told and addressed from a source or a standpoint or a perspective that was outside of the church approved materials. And so for me, once that happened, and I really started to become more informed about some things that I had no idea about, that just opened up a whole new world to me. And as far as religion goes, that's what got the ball rolling there. And then, I would just say that, again, it's wild, but when you marry so young within Mormonism, you come into that marriage basically making a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the deal is you have your roles, you have your things that you're going to do for me, you're going to bring, you're going to meet certain needs of mine, and I for you. And it's all based on those those principles of faith and of that religion. And when that foundational faith and religion starts to crack and crumble, well, naturally it forces you to look not only inward, but it forces you to look at your relationship. Because what brought us together? Why did we marry each other? Because of Mormonism. I guarantee you, had I not gone on a mission and taken her to the temple, she would have never married me. You see what I'm saying? So when you begin to kind of deconstruct your religion, your beliefs around your faith, it naturally makes you start to look at everything
That came from that.
that came from that.
And
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Darcy.
I was going to say, unfortunately, a lot of marriages don't make it when they belong to such a high demand religion and somebody questions and starts stepping away. A lot of marriages don't make it, and it's so disheartening that that happens. But I think that just speaks to like how deeply Brandon and I love each other outside of religious beliefs, and it's what has kept us together. But it's come through a lot of work and a lot of deconstruction and a lot of individual healing and healing together.
A lot of re-identifying.
Yeah, we've become, our identity has completely changed.
Yeah. It would have had to.
Yeah. And where before it was something like that we really feared, especially me. Like when he started going through his, I like to call it now, like he was just expanding as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
But that had nothing to do, like that, what that created had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with my level of safety within myself. Because what that really showed me was that I feared my own expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've learned so much about creating so much safety inside of ourselves so that we don't fear the evolvement of each other. We actually like applaud it and want it because his expansion is only going to allow for my own. And I think what every human being desires is to experience wholeness within themselves and to be witnessed by another human being in that wholeness. And I had such a convoluted view of what wholeness meant and what wholeness felt like. And now that I have had direct experience with feeling whole within myself, and I think, I hate to speak for you, but I feel like Brandon has too. Yeah. That now it's just such a pleasure to be able to witness each other in that wholeness. Mm-hmm. And I think that really is the definition of intimacy, because intimacy goes so much far beyond sexual intimacy. Intimacy is created first within yourself by experiencing and feeling and witnessing the wholeness of yourself. And that means integrating all your parts and loving all of your parts and not casting any part of you away. And, when you think about when you feel I would say most everybody feels the most freedom when they're in nature, right? It's that feeling of feeling whole because you're being witnessed by something else that feels so whole. When we're with our animals, we feel the same way. We can be whoever we want with no judgment. Yeah. We're just being witnessed by our animals. You feel whole. And ultimately, I think that is the purpose why we're here as souls, is to remember our wholeness. And relationship is the container where we get to come back to wholeness and to witness each other in that wholeness. And to me, that is intimacy. And it's something that I feel have, because of our faith deconstruction and that bringing on our marriage deconstruction, it has brought us to that level of awareness and that intimacy that we try to cultivate and create every day. And watching Brandon, like being a witness to Brandon's healing and seeing him remember his wholeness and witnessing him in his humanity and in his authentic expression has been one of the most beautiful things I have ever witnessed in my life. And because of that, you know, that just plays off of like allowing me to do the same. And so it's been so hard, but so worth it. And our connection now has, I don't think we really could have imagined like the level of connection we've been able to reach with each other because of going through the fire with each other. So I'm grateful for it. It was really hard, but I'm super grateful for it.
You know, there's something that Brandon said that really stands out to me. And you talk about a lot of couples, especially ones that got married that young and from a faith, don't make it. And, you know, Brandon, you said, if not for all that, she wouldn't have married me. But that's very different than she wouldn't have chose me. Like, and I'm of course hearing you guys tell the story now when you're at this beautiful place you're at now. But it sounds like what you're saying is you guys might have chosen a different life path, but you felt like you chose each other fully. And that's the story, you know, in my time of couples I've worked with and many that I've known long before I got into this work, the ones that didn't make it and separated and often separated with a lot of animosity, they felt like the pressure to get married caused them to marry someone that they might not have chosen this person. But I never got any sense of that from either of you in this story. You might have chosen a different path, but part of what's kept you guys together is that you genuinely adored each other even throughout that process.
Yeah. That's for sure. Even given all the pain and the difficulty and the heartache, I would never, I have no regrets. I would never want to do life with anyone else other than Darci. Yeah, you know, I think when I started my faith journey, my faith expansion, my spiritual expansion, whatever we want to call it, and it forced me to start to really look at like my own truth, my own authenticity. You know, for me, intimacy is built on truth, and it just naturally evolved from there into realizing that, like, wait a minute, this marriage that we like, I was 21, you were 19 when we started it. This marriage that we have now is not that marriage. That's not the marriage that we agreed upon and that we, you know, made the deal on. And also, you, Darci, now you're not the same person that you were when you were 19 years old. And I'm not the same person I was when I was 21. And you really start to accept that and look at that and just really look with curiosity at your own truth and your own authentic nature. It makes you realize that marriage, it's not it doesn't have to evolve like that. It's not a given that it's going to evolve, but what is a given is if that it doesn't, it will die.
You'll outgrow that container.
You will.
Yeah.
And so you have to just get really honest, like radical accountability and honesty. And, you know, for some people, as referenced a minute ago by Darci, sometimes that means separation and dissolution of the marriage. And my opinion is this, that sometimes that's okay. Like that doesn't mean failure necessarily. Like, you know, we're so caught up in our society to gauge the success of a marriage by longevity. And that is not the way to gauge the success of a marriage. To gauge the success of a marriage, we should be asking, what has happened to the souls of those two people? Have they lost themselves for the sake of this relationship? And if, with radical honesty, the answer to that is yes, then you're just you come to a crossroads where you say, okay, the question really isn't, can I work this thing out with you? The question is, are we able to relate to each other on a level of complete and total truth and authenticity? Can we relate to each other? And we've been able to find that that's not only a yes, it's a hell yes.
when you guys, when Brandon, you went through that initial crisis and that kind of moment where everything started to fall apart and all of the suppressed stuff came out. I'm curious, Darci, what that was like for you, and if there were moments where you guys did question if you were going to make it through that together, or if you always knew you weren't sure how it was going to turn out, but you always knew that it was going to turn out with the two of you, you know, as a team.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard. I was 100% full believer. This is the only path. This is the only way for us to be together forever as a family. This is the only way to raise our kids. So initially it was really hard, and we would have conversations about it, but they wouldn't last long. They would end up in arguments. Until like I just decided to get more serious about it and start finding out for myself the things that he was questioning, because I could see how painful it was for him and how difficult this was for him. And it broke my heart seeing him experience this. And I didn't want him to feel judged by me. I didn't want him to feel alone. And it's no easy task deconstructing Mormonism after you belong to it for over 40 years of your life. It was hell, actually.
Yeah.
And everything that comes along with it, the judgment of other people, the fear of what other people are going to think. I mean, we could talk about deconstructing. That's a whole nother episode, but let's just say it was incredibly difficult and scary. And what what I didn't know then, what I know now is that we were both wired to see the world in one way, based upon our conditioning, our domestication, the way our parents raised us, our culture, our religion. We literally only had neural pathways that were wired to see the world and each other in one way. And so when you talk about expanding, that's why expanding into a different identity feels so incredibly uncomfortable and so resistant, because it's, you know, it's unfamiliar to your body. And so it's naturally going to cause you to want to stay back with what is familiar, because what is familiar is safe to your body and your nervous system. So I wish I would have known that then, what I know now. But yeah, and then that brought on, like I said, a lot of stuff in our marriage that we hadn't fully confronted and that we hadn't fully been honest with each other about, that we had kind of just like swept under the rug. Like I said, we've always deeply loved each other. But we both had been suppressing a lot, and it needed to come to the surface. And there were times, yeah, where I was like, I don't know, like this is really hard. And I'm sure he probably felt the same way. Like, are we really going to be able to like come out of this? And I just give ourselves a lot of credit because I'm like, we're strong. We are.
You also talked earlier when we were having our kind of intro call about your trauma language. And I just
Mhm.
think that's like really important how you learned that. Did you learn that about the 4-year mark is that what like helped you get out of these resentments and take radical accountability? Because that feels like the biggest shift that
Yeah.
it shifted you. Because you had the tools of Mormonism before, which was faith and prayer, which
Yeah.
are still beautiful. Like
Yeah.
Chad and I pray every day
For
together. And
sure.
like those are still beautiful, but that's like not gonna get you to have the hard repair conversations, right, that need to be had.
Yeah,
And so your tools sounded like they shifted.
for sure. Well, we started going to a trauma therapist, and
Mm,
both of us, and not really knowing that she was specifically a trauma therapist. She was just highly recommended to us as we were navigating like faith deconstruction and like reorganizing and restructuring our marriage. And then we learned a lot from her about
mm,
trauma and about why we are the way that we are and how to resolve that and how to work with each other in helping us each individually heal from our own individual traumatic experiences, and then how to do that in relationship, which then led me to become a trauma and somatic practitioner. And um, so it's kind of like beautiful in a way to see the evolvement of that and how it helped me
mhm,
find something that I'm so deeply passionate about now. But yeah, we had unresolved wounds from
mhm,
our childhood that we were unaware of was causing our disconnection in our marriage. And I'll speak to my own. Um, this is actually the first time I've ever publicly shared this, so I feel like it's the right time. And I know that sounds kind of crazy being a trauma practitioner that I haven't ever openly talked about something that was very traumatic to me in my childhood, but I just want to model that there's a time and place for everything. And not everybody deserves to hear your story. And that trauma can be resolved without publicly speaking about that. It's very important for me to demonstrate that because it's what I teach to the people that I help. But because of that, I'm having some sensations and emotions coming up, and I'm just also want to model that I'm staying present with that and not abandoning myself as I'm experiencing these scenes coming up for me. But um, when I was roughly like 8 or 9 years old, I was molested, and it was not by a family member. I just want to put that out there that it was not a family member, but it was somebody that I thought I could trust. And I didn't really receive a whole lot of healing from that after. Um, it just kind of happened, and then I just went on with my life. What happened to me at that time, though, from what I know now, was that I just had completely dissociated from my body. And it's actually such a beautiful way that God designed our bodies and our nervous systems because we dissociate so we don't have to feel pain. And I'm grateful. I'm really super grateful for that dissociation at that time. But that dissociation stayed with me. Um, and I became very disconnected from my body. And on top of that, being raised in a religion where purity culture was so heavily at that time such a big thing. And um so my body felt like something I needed to manage instead of like attuning to and feeling into and being super comfortable and safe with. Um and purity culture has such damaging effects on both men and women, but for me, combined with like having that traumatic experience when I was younger, just I was so disconnected from my sensuality and from my sexuality. I feared it actually because I wasn't taught how to experience desire and sovereignty and holiness at the same time. And or how to like experience pleasure. Like there was no language or experience for me to be able to experience that in. And I just want to say, like, before I head into how that affected our marriage, is that disembodiment when you are disembodied, it causes the people that you love most in your life to also suffer. Because when you are disembodied, when you are not regulated, then everybody in your milieu that you love has to reorganize their lives around your pain and around your disembodiment. And my disembodiment led to Brandon's sexual shame, because where I was so uncomfortable with myself, didn't know myself, he took that as there was something wrong with him. And we had just suppressed that for so long. And so that all came to the surface as we were healing, and experiences that he had had when he was a kid had led to him being a certain way when we were married. And so we were just working through all of that. But what I'll say to that is that marriage is such a sacred container for you to heal those childhood wounds, because Brandon was the perfect person for me to embody my sensuality, to embody my wholeness and my freedom in that expression. And I needed him to be a witness to me in that. And I needed him to be the person that I felt fully safe discovering myself in that way with. And that is the beauty about being in relationship, and the beauty of love, and the beauty of intimacy, of knowing yourself so well, but also knowing your partner's trauma language so well that they can help you. And it takes away from criticism when you understand your partner's trauma language. We speak so much of love language, but do you know your partner's trauma language? Do you know their core wounds? Do you know the ways that they self-protect? So when that comes up, criticism kind of dissolves, and you can just like witness them and be there for them and attune to them. And that's what has brought us ultimately to a deeper level of connection and witnessing. So yeah.
First, I just want to thank you for and acknowledge you for sharing that story, and also really appreciate what you said before. It's a reminder that it's everybody. Sometimes we feel this pressure that the only way we can heal is to publicly air our dirty laundry. And I really love the way that you described that, how that timing is perfect for everyone. I'm curious, when was the first time that you told Brandon that story?
We've been married a few years. Yeah, I think I'd forgotten about it, honestly. Um, my parents knew, and that's it. And I think that's part of dissociating from such a traumatic experience, is your body not only dissociates, but a lot of times that implicit memory, like you don't remember things until you start having like experiences that remind you of that. That's how much I had disassociated from that experience. And even when I verbalized that to him, he's very, very sweet and understanding and compassionate, but we still didn't have like the resources and the tools and the understanding of how to like heal that.
Mm-hmm.
We were young, we had no money for marriage therapy or anything like that. And so we just kept on like, and I don't think neither of us fully understood how that impacted me and my relationship with my body. Um, so
Yeah, I had no idea. I just didn't understand. I just didn't know. Some of the details were fuzzy, like she said, the recollection, the ability to recall exactly what happened, or it's kind of gray. And in addition to the purity culture stuff that she referenced, I had no idea like that. When you're in that religion fully, like we were, you're just not aware of the impact that that stuff has on the relationship that you hold with yourself and your body and your sexuality and your sensuality and your expression of your humanity. It's so suppressed.
yeah,
And so, as Darci mentioned, I just like almost like right out the gates of our marriage, I am deeply in love with this woman, and I just begin to accept that our sexual connection is just not what I thought it was going to be. It's not what I expected. It's not what I had been sold from the media,
Mm.
from music, from friends. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that combined with my own childhood trauma, my own core wounds, resulted in me just chalking it up to full blown rejection.
Mhm.
And it was it was hard.
Yeah.
It was very painful. And I think that also just I think a lot of men, me included, have a very, very distorted view of the feminine. And what I mean by that is when you consider the effects of patriarchy, when you consider the effects of um, the mother complex, the mother wound, and this is not, please no, mothers, especially mine. I know you do your best, and even for the greatest mothers in the world, there will be a gap between what your children need from you and what you are capable of giving. There just will be. So this is no shaming. This is no, but my relationship to the feminine was very distorted coming into marriage. Not only the feminine outside of myself residing in women, but the feminine residing within myself. The feminine energy, creativity, attraction, magnetism, pure flow of love, connection to the heart, intuition. I was cut off from that in so many ways. I know now, looking back, it's easy to see that. But um, and so I think where I went with it was, and I think where a lot of men go with the unconscious, fractured, or distorted relationship to the feminine, is we turn ourselves into machines. We disconnect from the heart. Our chest is numb. We're emotionally unavailable, disconnected, and we just grind and we produce and we make money and we put a roof over the head and we make sure our wife is driving a nice car and our kids have nice clothes and we go on fancy vacations. But deep within, none of that fills the void.
mm,
None of that makes you feel like you get to a place where your identity becomes as what I can produce, what I can provide my people. That is who I am. That is all I am in this situation. And then just with so much suppression, that's where I fell into a dark place.
Well, and we talked a lot about how the suicide rates among men are like 4 times that of women, and I believe what you're speaking to is a big reason why we tie our worth and ourselves and our identity to these things in a world where we don't always have control over that. So when we have financial struggles, or we lose a job, or we get laid off or something, it isn't just the fear of the security of our life. We suddenly feel like all our value is threatened.
Yeah.
And if I'm not doing that, then I am nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just, I like to call it like maintenance sex. And even though I still loved connecting with him in that way, it had nothing to do with him. It had everything to do with me, as far as that, like being so disembodied and fearful of myself, that like further sexual exploration like scared me, and unconsciously I was scared to it, you know?
And you're taught this, right, in this faith, that as a woman, your job is to have sex periodically. That's like
That's
almost
your role.
it's almost your duty, whether or not you're feeling it, to do it mechanically to keep the husband happy so he can go fulfill his role.
Yeah. You're not taught as a girl growing up in the church how important your own desire and your own pleasure. You're not taught sovereignty. Sovereignty is a threat to Mormonism. You're not taught any of that. And so you kind of just like take on this role without knowing yourself at that depth, and just try to like do the best that you can. So like those two things just created the perfect recipe for what we had experienced in our marriage. Um, so yeah, that all came to a head. We had a lot of healing work to do around that, and helping Brandon work through his depression and the childhood things that he had experienced and the ways that they had been projected in our marriage. We both have hurt each other because of our unresolved wounds. And that's what I speak to. When you do not take accountability and when you do not take the time to heal yourself, everybody in your life has to reorganize their lives around you. And that happens in relationship, that happens with your kids. And so I just can't speak enough about how important it is to heal and to live from a whole state and to be witnessed in that. I think that is the work of every human being and the work of like the collective as a whole.
Yeah. And
Brandon, I just want to say, honor your desire and right to share your story whenever you want. But as we, before we close this, I want to make sure you have the space to tell any story that you want to tell as well.
Yeah, I think, Chad, I would just say, I want to actually give a message of hope. Because I still vividly see her that summer night, 1997. And when I met her, she had this glow in this sea of people at this dance. It's dark, and there's Darci. Like, she's the only thing I see. I still remember that so clearly. Go through the courting, the engagement, the honeymoon phase of marriage, and then, pretty soon, before you know it, you're like, you kind of forget. Maybe you don't forget. Maybe my experience, I would say, is better said that when I allowed myself to be vulnerable, to take accountability, and to speak my truth, it was as if after 22 years of marriage, I really saw her for the first time. And, it was so beautiful. It took my breath away, but it was also very painful to consider how it could be that I was living with this person all this time and I didn't see. And then, of course, you understand that, as Darci spoke to earlier, regarding when you gain some awareness around your wounds and your trauma and your really your neural wiring, your nervous system wiring, you give yourself some compassion and some grace, and you realize that you were doing your best. And I just feel so blessed and fortunate that walking through that fire burned away everything that was not really me. And it also took away my blindness, and it made me really be able to see her. So I would love to just share with anyone listening who's like in a similar situation. There's hope. It's hard. It's a lot of hard work, but the connection that we have created between ourselves and with our children is more than worth it.
Yeah.
Baby love, is there anything you'd like to add before?
No, I just want to thank both of you for your courage to share such vulnerable stories, and it really touched me, and I know it's going to touch so many people that hear it, and I just want to really honor both of your journeys to get here to this point, and to be so embodied, and to just be so generous with your stories to share. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
We're truly
thank
grateful.
you so much.
And if any of our listeners want to hear more from you, and I know many will, you have your own podcast, right? Do you want to just share a little bit about that with us, and we'll make sure to link that in the show notes?
Yeah. We each have our own. I'm a somatic practitioner. I work mainly with women in helping them heal and to come back home to their bodies. And Brandon, outside of being an orthodontist, also works with. You want to tell what you do with your hands?
I work with men, specifically middle-aged, high-achieving men, just using my life experience of having kind of grinded and hustled my way to the top of the ladder in my own profession and achieving tremendous success, according to what the world would define as success. And really getting, for me, and this is another, we'll have to talk about this another time, but getting to the top of that ladder and realizing, dang, it's leaning up against the wrong wall. And just helping men realize kind of what we spoke to just a few minutes ago, that we are actually much more than what we produce and what we provide and what we do for a career. And that I essentially, I help men learn to reconnect to their heart, reconnect to their body, and reconnect to their purpose.
Yeah. So we have that. And yes, we have a podcast called Safe to Be Seen, similar to you guys.
Love it.
I love it. We actually haven't done an episode. We've had a lot of things going on in our life, shifting, and so we plan on starting it back up here in January. But yeah, it's called Safe to Be Seen. We talk a lot about our relationship and marriage. We talk a lot about like nervous system and somatic healing and inner child work and parts work and attachment styles and all the things that we've learned about each other throughout this journey, and the things that I help people with, and we talk about parenting, and so it's been really fun. So yeah, that's called Safe to Be Seen.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I just want to, on a personal note, Darci, thank you for that mainly with women comment, because you've been working with me a little bit, and it's been some of the most profoundly impactful somatic work I've done. And I know we wanted to get you guys on to tell your story, but we're really hopeful and excited to have you guys back on again next season to share about the work you do, because it is pretty powerful and pretty incredible. And it is actually a really funny story. The day we met them, we had just picked the name for this podcast, and we made these two, and they're like, we just launched a podcast called Safe to Be Seen. And we were like, oh, what is happening?
I love it. Everything, the basis of everything that is fruitful and connecting and intimate is safety.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love it. It's you guys obviously have found that in your own way, and as we. So yeah, if everybody felt safe inside their bodies, we would live in a completely different world.
Yep.
So I'm grateful you guys helped share that message.
Well, and that's our mission, right? To create that world.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that you guys align with, and why we immediately just were like, oh, we love these two. We have to get them on.
Yeah.
We feel the same about you guys.
We're so proud of you guys. So proud.
So I have one last question for both of you. And it is, what is one piece of advice that you would leave our audience with to give them hope and love?
One piece of advice. Mine, I would always be just like, come home to yourself. Like, discover your own wholeness. Like, live and feel that freedom of being in a whole state. And from there, life reorganizes itself around your becoming. Find safety inside your own body. Find safety with your humanity. Integrate your shadows. And my overall message for people is always like, you are already whole. You are not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. And to just shed the layers that are not you, your protective patterns, the adaptations that you had to create in order to survive. We all have had to do them, no matter how healthy our dynamics were growing up. We all adapted in some way. So find the journey of healing to be just more about self-discovery, of getting to know yourself better. And that's a lifelong pursuit, and it should be done with joy. I can think of no greater thing than to have the most loving relationship you can with yourself, because that fills in the gaps of everything else in your life, your relationship with yourself. And so that would be what I would say.
Yeah, and you'll see why we are so well aligned and compatible and connected, because what I would say is pretty much the same thing. I would just say that the greatest love story of your life should be the one with yourself. And to remember that, again, this seems so like, well, yeah, obviously, Brandon, but I didn't realize that unless you love yourself, you cannot give love to others. And just be gentle with yourself, be patient and compassionate, and give yourself grace, and just love yourself. I know that's easier said than done. I suffered with severe depression for over 6 years, experienced suicidality. It's not always easy, but my message for everyone, every chance that I get to say it, is to learn to love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you.
You cannot have a better relationship with someone else than you have with yourself. Like, it's just, you can't.
Yeah. So within, so without.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
And, I feel like it goes without saying to anyone that has just listened to this show, but I just want to remind everyone to be brave. Love is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amen.
It definitely.
Amen.